Let's build a boat. I'm going to show you how. There's a lot of videos on here. Some of these guys tell you can do it in 4 hours. You can't do it in 4 hours, but I'm going to show you what I did. I wish there was more pictures. I didn't take a lot of pictures along the way, but what I've done is I've collected up all the pictures I did take and then tried to come up with a presentation from there. But I also made a lot of mistakes, and I'll show you the mistakes that I made, but hopefully this will show you how to make one of these properly. Okay, first of all, you need 4 pieces of 8x4 6mm hardwood faced plywood, just the cheap stuff, so WBP is the stuff that you want. It shouldn't cost more than £10 a sheet. Here you see 4 equal parts, all cut in the same template. Make sure to use the straight edge, the factory straight edge from the plywood on for the bottom of the sections. What I've done here, taken all the parts, taped them together, and then shaped them in the shape that I want. I think it was just over 3 foot I made the canoe. I made the canoe quite wide. I made sure all the measurements were exactly the same for both halves of the bottom section. And then once I was happy with that, I marked it out, and then I cut it out. Right, next thing to do is to glue the pieces together. So both on the one piece base and then the 4 sides, you can see in the middle here that I've taken a 6-inch plank of the 6mm ply and then epoxied that onto the pieces, connecting all the pieces together. I've weighed that down, let it dry, and then I've gone over with fiberglass tape, let that dry, and then it's all clamped together, ready to be taped, ready for the whole boat to be taped together. Don't use the yellow unsightly Kevlar tape that I've used here. Use clear standard fiberglass woven tape. Right, what you want to do is glue the whole thing, tape the whole thing together. It sounds strange, but I used a lot of top grade duct tapes and they all peeled off. The only one that didn't peel off was this EvoBuild American duct tape. It's always orange. It used to be called Jaffa tape. And this stuff really grabs, and it'll last quite some time. Also, look at my illustration on the left-hand side. You want the planks of ply to connect like this, so that you leave a gap in between, so that you can put in an epoxy paste. Okay, on to the next one. First things first, you look at the yoke, and it's circled in green. To me, the yoke was an important part of this, and I notice a lot of guys on YouTube, they don't actually put in a yoke. If you cut a really nice yoke, sand it all down, round it all off, make it nice. Mine's made out of a nice piece of ash, and then insert it into the middle. That will determine how much your boat flares out on the side. The more the flare, the more stable the boat. It also, when you start pulling out the sides like that, it creates a rocker on each side, so meaning the ends of the boat start to lift up, okay, and that creates the curve of your boat. Don't add in these supports that you see on the front and back of the boat. They're useless. I put them in, and they were a waste of time. They weren't needed, and they caused a lot of problems when I was trying to fit in the seats. Also, then you can actually start now gluing this thing together. You see in the top left-hand corner here, I've started to fillet it. This is a mix of 2-part epoxy and sawdust to make a peanut butter type texture paste that you round into the corners and actually glue all the corners in. Do the entire inside of the boat, and then you flip over. So flip it over, and then you can remove all your duct tape because you've glued the thing together. You then glue with the paste all around all the edges on the outside in that diagonal crevice like I was showing before in that illustration. You can then, once that's all dried and is hardened, you have a very rigid boat. You can start taping the boat on the outside with the Kevlar, with what you see here is the yellow Kevlar tape. You can do it with standard fiberglass tape. For the exterior of the boat, I went for a really strong 75mm Kevlar tape for the exterior because I was painting it anyway, and just for a bit of peace of mind. Okay, what you see here is a fully glassed boat, so just ignore that for now. I wanted to show you the taped boat, all the taped edges. And notice in the top right hand corner I've also taped all the connecting joints of all the pieces of the ply. You can also at this point start thinking about the type of keel that you want. I made my rocker too high. I didn't use a straight edge on the ply. I actually cut a curve up, thinking that I didn't have enough rocker. Once I bowed out the boat, I had far too much rocker, so I've done quite a pronounced keel here. And this keel is all it is just 18 mil ply, and then I've bonded that on with an Evo Build pink grip. Any decent grab adhesive will do, and then filleted it in, and then taped it, epoxied it all in, and then glassed the whole boat. Right, you can flip it back over again, and you can start putting in things like seats and ends and end shields, and I'll show you that in the next one. And you can have a bit of fun with it as well. I've got my daughter here just drawing in some pictures. My son and daughter drawing a bunch of pictures, and what I'll do is I'll just glass over the entire thing with clear epoxy. Have some fun with this. It's cheap. You know, this whole boat cost about £200 to make. That's a lot cheaper than a normal boat. So just have some fun with it and make it a little bit more unusual than just a normal boat. Okay, back to this one. You decide on the keel. You finalize all that. Make sure you've got the full length keel. So you've got here I have a pronounced keel on each end of the boat, and then a very small line connecting the two. Also notice I've got these makeshift gunwales as well. So what I've done is I've glassed the entire boat inside and out with epoxy. I've also cheated a little bit on the gunwales. Gunwales, which are the edges here that you see on the bottom of the boat, or the top, technically the top of the boat. Gunwales should be hardwood, bent wood, clamped in, and then secured onto the side of the boat. I've cheated. I've actually cut ply in the same shape as the pieces that I put together, and then added a strip on each side of the boat itself to create kind of a makeshift gunwale. It's cheating, but in the end it looked okay. Okay, so that's the finished product. So you can see that the unsightly yellow tape in the middle, which I'll actually paint over with a red stripe, but preferably you want that all in clear fiberglass tape and epoxied. I've put in simple seats, which is two slats of thickish hardwood. I use cheap Grandis wood, but I'd probably recommend using an ash similar to what you used for the yoke. And then I've actually hand stitched some leather seats in as well. You can do this whichever way you want. Glassed over the pictures, so you can see all the pictures my daughter and my son have put in there. I glassed straight over that with epoxy. The sun will probably take the color out of those eventually, but like I said, it's not an expensive boat, so just have some fun with it. Also, look at the pasted the edges of the boat, so you can see the epoxy paste and tape. I used pine sawdust. I shouldn't have. I should have used a dark hardwood sawdust or something that was dark that would merge into it. Now you see a very kind of bright white line along each side of the boat. That's not ideal. You want something that kind of matches the inside of the exterior of the boat. There it is again. Right, what do you need? Well, you might need a plan. The best plans I've seen are this Michael Store Quick Canoe 155. I did mine from scratch. But what I did was I ended up making a boat that looked very much like his. So I think for about 30 Australian dollars, you can get a full plans for his Quick Canoe 155, which will look almost identical to this. 4 sheets of 6mm 8x4 WPP hardwood faced plywood. This is the cheap stuff. Anything more than £10 and you're getting ripped off. Don't buy marine grade ply. It's completely unnecessary. You're glassing and encasing the entire boat in epoxy. You can also use 4mm on this boat, but 4mm is a little bit harder to come by in the UK, and it made me a little bit nervous as well. So I used the 6mm, but it does make for quite a heavy boat. 1 gallon of 2-part clear epoxy. I got this at Fiberglass Direct. They're the only guys I could find the right stuff here in the UK. Manufacturer is Sycamore. Don't use polyester resin. Just go the whole hog and use a really good 2-part epoxy on the whole thing. Ever build American duct tape? This is the orange stuff. Don't use anything else. You just waste your time. This stuff has the grab that you need to actually hold together a heavy boat and keep it in place while you're trying to epoxy it. Probably overdoing it on the tape, but 20 meters of 75mm Kevlar fiberglass tape for the outside of the boat, and then 20 meters of standard just 50mm woven fiberglass tape for the inside of the boat. This dries clear, so it'll look a lot better in the inside of the boat, assuming that you're going to keep it wood. You might want to paint it as well. This can also be found at Fiberglass Direct, but you can get the standard stuff on eBay really cheap. 4 meters of thick hardwood slats for the seat slats. Any wood you want there, but you need a hardwood that doesn't bend and that can hold the weight of a human. Suitable piece of hardwood for the yoke. Sizes can vary. I picked up something from eBay from a guy who just sold bits of hardwood. That seemed to be his business. I use ash because I googled it and it looked like ash was the hardest. This stuff was like rock, so I would recommend it. Alright, so that's all you need. Go off and build a boat.